Unfortunately, the sport of boxing is still very dirty and plagued with a lot of corruption. I feel like boxing has had this notorious reputation of shady deals, fixing fights, and corruption, and much, much more. And as a boxing slash combat sports YouTuber, I really wanted to explore this topic, though I've never had the chance to find any real evidence up until now. Recently, I got into contact with a real boxing manager and had a conversation about the things that happen behind closed doors. And so the following are snippets from that conversation. Though our actual call was about 30 to 45 minutes, and given that Uros is a very busy guy, there was a lot of interruptions. So if there are a bunch of random cuts and it seems like I cut something out, I promise you I did not. I just wanted the conversation and the video to flow. So without further ado, here's Uros with his introduction.
I managed a couple of good fighters, former world champions. Some of them are former world champions. Some of them are regular fighters. Some of them are journeymen. You know how it goes in the boxing world. You have a lot of different fighters. Some of them are good. Some of them are not so good. So, yeah.
So I wanted to start off the conversation with the topic of fixed fights in boxing, and I asked Uros if there is an example of a clearly fixed fight in boxing.
A fight against Maxim Vlasov fought Joe Smith Jr. for the WBO title in the light heavyweight category. I think it was a close fight, but for example, if Vlasov was signed to the promo deal with Top Rank, I think he would win.
So the Joe Smith Jr. Maxim Vlasov fight Uros mentions is a highly controversial light heavyweight fight that took place in 2021, in which Joe Smith Jr. won through majority decision, with many fans calling it a robbery for Maxim Vlasov. So obviously my first question was, why was this favored for Joe Smith Jr.?
Yeah, he was favored for a couple of reasons in that fight. First of all, he was, let's be honest, he was an American guy. Vlasov doesn't speak fluent English, so that's also a factor. Also, the second thing is that on top of that, Joe Smith had a signed promo deal with Top Rank, and Vlasov's manager back then didn't ask for a promo deal with Top Rank. He didn't ask for a one or two, at least if Vlasov wins, for him to have one or two promo deals with Top Rank. And on top of that, when you look at it, you know, it's really hard to have a lot of great Russian fighters in one category. It starts to be boring, you know, especially if you have someone like Bivol, then you have someone like Vlasov, and then you have someone like Beterbiev, of course. Yeah. So it really narrows down. Why I'm saying it narrows down, because not a lot of people would tune in, you know, to watch two Russian guys fight. And when you have a Russian fighter fighting against a fighter from the UK, you will get a lot of people to tune in, because a lot of people from UK will tune in, a lot of people from US will tune in to watch. So yeah, that's just my personal opinion. I'm not biased or anything. That's just how things are.
Looking back at his response, it also makes me question whether or not this is why the Bivol Beterbiev fight is not being made, because these are two Russian-speaking fighters. Instead, we had Beterbiev fight a guy like Anthony Yarde, who does garner a lot of attention from Europe and UK specifically, and we had Bivol fight Ramirez, who garnered a lot of attention from Mexico. Though, I had a follow-up question. Why was Joe Smith Jr. allowed to fight a guy like Beterbiev, who is also a Russian-speaking fighter?
Well, the thing is that he was allowed to fight Beterbiev because Beterbiev is signed to Top Rank. So both of those fighters are fighting inside of the Top Rank, and whoever wins, basically belt stays with that promoter anyway.
Boxing promotion companies desperately trying to keep the belts within their own promotion does make sense. Promoters will often go out of their way to try to promote basically every single fight as a world title fight. This phenomenon was highlighted in my belt video, but besides keeping existing belts within the promotions, promoters can also make more title fights by simply making more belts.
You have, for example, a lot of belts being created, but those belts are basically irrelevant. So what some promoters will do, those promoters are usually the smaller type of promoters from, let's say, Germany or someplace like that, you know. What they will do, they would boost the fighter's score, inflate it, and then the fighter is, let's say, 25-0. Then they contact some guy, I don't know, from Pakistan, or doesn't matter, you know. He opens there an organization, everything. He makes a belt, gives a name, let's say WB, I don't know, WBX,
Yeah.
doesn't matter, WBX world champion. Then they fight in Germany. They sell it to the TV, like a title fight. They get more money from TV rights, from TV sales. But those fights are usually smaller fights. And scams like that don't happen a lot in today's boxing. Things like that happened a lot before the invention of the internet. So now you can look anything up. You can go on BoxRec and see who someone fought.
Uros claims that this belt scam isn't necessarily happening today, but I'd argue it's happening at an all-time rate today despite the internet. I mean, just go to the Wikipedia page of any of your favorite fighters and look up the belts that they've quote-unquote held. You'll find a lot of silver belts, gold belts, random interim belts, franchise champions, etc., etc. These big belt organizations will continue to create bogus belts with no meaning because people don't really care, or they're just overlooking the fact that most of these belts hold no meaning. Though moving on from the conversation of belts, I wanted to find out why the big fights between promotions were not being made.
Well, there are a number of reasons, you know. So, for example, let's say that one promoter has a TV deal with ESPN, the other promoter has a TV deal with HBO, and the likelihood of fighters who are signed to those different promoters, who are good fighters in the same weight class, the chance of that fight happening is really small, for a couple of reasons, you know. If they do a co-promotional deal, who will televise the event? Will it be ESPN or will it be HBO? And that event will be really big, and that event will earn a lot of money. And, you know, it's like really a fucked up situation, in my opinion.
It's a fucked up situation indeed. Us boxing fans are robbed of really great fights between boxing stars because of the politics in boxing and the negotiations between promotions, or I should say lack thereof. I've also detailed this problem in a video on boxing politics, but essentially there are many different promotions and each promotion has a contract with a broadcaster. For example, Top Rank has a huge contract with ESPN, Matchroom has a similar contract with DAZN, and PBC with Box and Showtime. Uros talked about it, but it's practically impossible to make deals between promotions because they have to negotiate who gets the TV deals, and we're talking millions and millions of dollars potentially made or lost for the broadcaster that receives or misses out on the opportunity for the TV rights to televise the event. Because of these holdups, not only do fans get frustrated, but the actual fighters can get frustrated too. One such instance is the Terence Crawford-Bob Arum situation. A while back, Terence Crawford left Top Rank and Bob Arum unexpectedly, claiming that Bob couldn't make the fight between him and Errol Spence Jr. Uros wanted to highlight not the actual move itself, but how Terence Crawford strategically executed that move. Specifically, why Terence Crawford decided to announce his leaving from Top Rank right after the Sean Porter fight instead of before.
Said to Bob directly after the fight that he will not longer stay with Top Rank. He did that because of a number of reasons. So, for example, if he told Bob that he's done with Top Rank, he will not fight anymore, then Bob would maybe put him against some other fighter from Top Rank, and then Terence would lose on points. The titles will stay inside of Top Rank. Or he would make a big fight and make a lot of money, and he wouldn't care if titles don't stay with Top Rank, because anyway, Terence is not going to extend the contract. So there are a lot of reasons why Terence Crawford waited to tell everything to Bob.
See, Terence Crawford did this right after the Sean Porter fight, and you have to remember that Sean Porter is a PBC promoted fighter. Had Terence Crawford told Bob Arum he was leaving before or during the Sean Porter fight being made, this fight would have likely not happened. So for Terence Crawford to be able to fight someone like Sean Porter and have the incredible performance he had to add to his resume, he had to hold off of his announcement until after the fight. So finally, I wanted to ask Uros his thoughts on how boxing is being run, the dirty tactics, and the corruption that is in boxing.
Well, as a boxing fan, I don't like it, but as a manager, I must say, I'm not going to lie, I kind of like it, you know. Well, yeah, let's be honest, you know. Because if you know a couple of guys here and a couple of guys there, you will do good. But if you don't know them and if you are not experienced manager, but it doesn't all come down to experience. It comes down to who you know and how well you are connected in the world of boxing. And also it comes down to, do you know a couple of people from TV companies, and can you make something for the fighter? And that's why a lot of fighters now, young fighters, are contacting me. They want to work with me, which I think is really good. But, you know, I don't think I can manage 50 fighters on my own. That's pretty hard, you know, pretty hard thing to do.
And I think this last snippet from Uros really sums up the situation we have in boxing and really throughout the history of the entire sport. See, the people who benefit from the business of boxing are going to keep it this way because it's been like this for so long and it's been so well established to an absolute T. Though this business of boxing comes at the expense of the boxing fan. Shady and complex business practices such as fixing fights, creating bogus belts, and basically fighting over TV rights has completely ruined the sport, but has made the people who do utilize these practices very, very rich. And because of this, there's no incentive to change. Anyways, thanks guys for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the current state of boxing, and thank you for all of the support. Peace.